welcome back to another episode. Back on the Corolla ke70. ESR is obviously in the bay. We've done a few little jobs since then, off camera. We've mounted the rear shocks, so the rear shocks are actually in now, as you can see, and they've got mounts. I've also done a prop shaft loop, as you can see, that's all in. So the next job is going to be making the back half of the tunnel. Now I'm going to do it with the engine in, because it will help me know, realise where the gear lever is going to be. So we're going to make the measurements, and it's going to go right into here. So it's going to go right into here, and then once we've got this bit worked out and the bead roll and that tacked in, we can kind of finish off this panel. Now it is going to look a bit odd because the prop shaft loop is over to one side. And now the reason for this is the whole car tunnel, the original car tunnel, is over to one side as well, and the axle is over to one side. So it kind of, well, the actual centre of the axle is, it kind of works out really well because the prop's going to be lined up all the way. So let's get this back side of this tunnel kind of worked out. We're going to cut some steel and flat. It's going to be, we're going to shape it and put it into the car first, and then we'll take, once it's in the car, we can take an idea of where the bead roll is going to be. Put all the bead roll patterns in it, weld it in. Once we've got that done, then we can work on to the next panel and go from there. So I hope you're following along, because I hope that made sense, because it didn't sound like it made any sense to me. But what the f? There we go, I'll just try my best. Right, let's crack on. Right, we cut this sheet of steel, we did a measurement quickly using a prop shaft loop to give us a bit of an idea. So I did a square measurement basically with a normal tape, and then centre of the sheet is 11.5 inches. The outside of the tunnel, as in where it will meet the outside of that prop shaft loop and this tunnel, is 7 inches. So we've gone 3.5, 3.5, and then this piece of tube here is going to be the radius of the bend. So what we're going to do is put this on the metal bench out there. We're going to clamp it to the table, and we're going to pull this side up over it, and the same with that side. Now, the annoying part about all this is it's all going to be flattened out again after, but at least we can get it in the car, work out all the bead roll patterns, and go from there, you know what I mean? I might even bead roll down here, yeah? So we'll have a pattern on the top and a pattern here. So let's see how we get on, and see what flows in my head while I'm doing it. And but let's get this bent up, and then we can get it offered up. See, we've got that in now. We've got it so it's sitting on top of this tube, and it's sitting on top of the gear lever, which is perfect. So we're looking at the edge of this to the sill. It's completely parallel to that. That's a bit of luck, to be fair, but we'll take it. So yeah, I've wedged a piece of wood underneath here, just to wedge it out here, and then obviously we know a little bit about this, so we've got a bit of an idea of where it's going to be. So before we get into any further, this is the next thing we need to do. So this rear panel is going to come down. It's going to come down over there and come down into this. So all we need to know is where this bead roll is going to be and where we carry it on here. Obviously, because that's going to be curved off. We're going to carry this bead roll into here. So plan is to we run a straight edge across there, and that's where that pan will be. And then what we'll do is we'll measure 30 mil, somewhere like that, and then we'll do the pattern in there, and then I'll also run a ruler down here to get the pattern down the side, and then we're going to do, this is going to be one pattern, and then they're going to have another one down the side as well. But we've got to bear in mind we're going to have seatbelt mountings as well. So the seatbelt mountings were here, but we're going to put them further back because we're going to be sat further back because of lanky boy issues. And yeah, so that will look tidy and real nice around there. So yeah, it's coming on. It's going to this bead roll on here will look a little bit funky because of this being slightly offset centre, but that's fine. And then obviously we'll push the floor into the tunnel because we want the tunnel to be the same width as that tube. So let's get the pattern drawn on. So a bit more progressed. I've screwed this in, and what I actually did was actually put this bottom edge, I drew a line across it and put it through the tipping die to actually fold this edge up so it met the floor. That's why it's screwed in and that there. I've also quickly made a sort of a template to see if that kind of all works out quite well, and it does. So quite chuffed with that. And the gear lever should be in a nice place. So yeah, quite chuffed so far. Now, these are going to be for seatbelt mountings, which I'll weld in after. But you can see it's kind of taking shape and it looks pretty funky, and it goes around a few things and complements a few other things. So quite chuffed with that. The seat rails that are going to go into this car will be underneath this, so they'll be very low to the floor, so they shouldn't protrude. They might have a plate coming over here a little bit, but that'll be fine. But yeah, looking quite funky, and quite chuffed with how that looks. So let's keep going and keep smashing it out. I don't know whether I'm going to make that rear panel first and go from there, or I'll just buzz this in. The only other thing I might do is I might make this rear panel and then put a tipped edge on this to fold up to it. I don't know what will look cleaner. I've got to play around with that, but we're getting on all right. I'm quite chuffed. Let's keep cracking. Right, so what I've decided to do is I'm going to make this panel next. We're going to leave a little bit of material on. This is pretty close, so I'm going to do my markings on here where we need to put that into the steel section. I've got to be careful of this because obviously that looks like it's quite flat there, so we're going to make sure that that stays a curve. So what we're going to have to probably do, I think, is make this panel complete with this curve in, and then chop this section out. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip this edge into a 90 round here, and then it won't be as much there, and then we'll basically have it so it's got a return edge. I think that's going to be the best bet. So I'm going to chop this out a bit more, make it so it's very good template, and get the lines from that plate and that plate, and we can cut this out, and then we can do the bead roll markings on it and everything. So that'll be quite cool. And so yeah, that's the next plan. So we got that in place now. I think we've got the worked out all the bead rolls. We're going to match the line out of the tunnel into this, so that all flows, because this is slightly sloping down anyway. And then obviously we're going to make a panel from this tube down to the floor with like a rolled edge. And I've got to decide what I'm going to do in this corner. This bit in the corner might be really tricky, but it's going to basically hammer into the sandbag to get this to go kind of that way and that way. So it's kind of like that in a way, so it'd be curved that way and that way. So that little panel there might be a bit tricky. It probably won't even be a bead roll in that panel, so it don't really matter. Just kind of clean it up to the floor, make it nice. So now we've got this excess to trim off, so we'd unmask it off. We will try it back in with it trimmed up. Now this will flex a little bit, but obviously we need to make sure there's enough material on this to go put the fold on as well. So obviously, like I say, I'm going to make this in one piece without any recess for the tunnel, with a bead roll and everything, and then we'll shape the panel probably around a gas bottle again, and then we can chop that bit out after and do the chipped edge. So that's the plan. Let's see how we get on. So this is why you make a template, because look, you can see here I've actually made this tiny bit too short here, because we couldn't quite work out where the radius was, and the same the other side. So you can see I've done like a bit of a guess, 5, 8 and 12 further out, and then I think we could probably get away with making this panel to fit in here and do the bead roll after, because that curve won't affect in the bead roll. We just have to take the flat plate off the bead roller that I swing around on. It's a nice smooth plate, and then we'll just have to do it so it rolls through. So what we can do is actually try it in. Obviously the tunnel's not welded in yet, so we can unscrew that or move it forward, so we can get that out of the way, and then we can concentrate on that, and then we can almost trim the tunnel till it matches into the panel, and then we can start doing the tip die. So I think that's my theory, going to work out really well there, and then we can make sure all these bead roll patterns are exactly right. So, bit of improvising and working out how to hold the sheet steel in place. Managed to get it somewhere near. We've had to, obviously this is going to go, this will line up with this, so we've got to chop a little bit of material off here so it sits on top of this tube, and then it will do the same from there down when we make that panel. But yeah, quite chuffed with that. Got all the bead roll worked out, and it's going to be very slightly sloped down there, but it is obviously sloped down into the tube, so that kind of works out really well. But yeah, it's going to look really mad to see all this filled in, because there was a big hole there not long ago. Oh my god! Wow! Yeah, and I keep looking at the boot floor by the doorway and thinking, what did I do that for? But yeah, let's get this panel finished up in the bead roller. We'll leave it curved, and like I say, I'll take the platform down on the bead roller, but you'll see that now. So let's get cracking. And a bit of an update, got that panel somewhere near, and yeah, we've trimmed this. Now, I've trimmed this is going to fit flush with that now, so that panel is going to be a part of this panel and go from there. I've just realised, you can see it on this video as well, there's like a kink in that material there, unless it's just a light. I hope it's just a light. No, it's a light. Okay, that's alright, just check it. You've got to check these things. We're trying to get everything right, as far right as we can get it before it goes in. Obviously once it's in, it's harder to sort and rectify. So we're going to basically get these two panels welded together, or at least tacked together, and then I'm going to try and put it in as in one piece. If that works, that'd be great, because we got everything then and all the concepts to weld it in completely. The key is to get all these lines completely symmetrical so that them distances are the same and the bead roll matches the same and everything. That's the key. That's my key anyway. I'm just being very picky with this car, just because every single job I'm doing, whether it's paying work, whether it's hobby work, I'm trying to better myself. So let's try and get these two welded together, and let's see if we can make a real nice job. Right, so we've got all that smoothed in now. We've got the DA on it and cleaned it all up, and there was a bit of surface rust coming through on this panel, and cleaned off some of there was a line from the bead roll, like the edge of the die left a little bit of a line here, so I got rid of that as well, and that's tidied up. So let's see if we can get this panel in there in the right place. So wish me luck. See, there's a little bit of tolerance in it. I'll bring it a bit this way. There's a little bit of twist in it, which is fine, because we can sort that out in the front. But if you're looking at them gaps, that looks perfect down there, and then we can push that in and that'll be perfect down there too. So I'm quite chuffed with that. At the end of the day, I was like this, I was going to make this panel underlap and go under here or over the top, and I thought, well, I'm making all this effort to put the bend and the tip die into this, why don't I just flush fit it? And now I'm glad I did that, because it looks really smooth and tidy. So our next move really, I think, is to TIG weld this in. then guys, it's been a few days. We welded that section in, and now we're gonna weld the actual back part of the tunnel in. So we've tech screwed this all in, so it's nice, nice and flush across here. If I can get the camera in the angle, it'd be nice. Yeah, so I've tech screwed all this in, so it's nice and flush to the panel, and it's holding the panel exactly where I want it. So that's good. So what I'm going to do is, in between these, I am going to drill holes, and then I'll plug weld it in. And then once that's in, we'll start working on the exhaust tunnel, which is going to run down here into this original exhaust tunnel. So it's going to just be like a channel, and then we'll go from there. I also want to say a massive thanks to Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is a company that's kind of come on board, and they have cleaned my inlet manifold and a few other bits really nicely. They're what they call dry ice flask company, and some of these bits, like the fuel rail, come out really nice, you know. So they're going to come and help us on board. They're even going to tidy up this gearbox, and they're hoping to do the engine bay and the hole underneath. So if you don't know what the underneath of this car is, I say the hole underneath, a lot of the car's gone, but until the main hoop, should we say. So from the bulkhead all the way to the main hoop, it's just grimy as hell underneath. So when you'll probably see a little bit of that when I do the exhaust tunnel. So they're going to blast all that off for us. But we'll wait to a future episode for them to do that, because we've got to get the car rolling again and then go from there. But I need to do gearbox mount and a few other things before I commit to getting it back on the floor, because every measurement at the moment is on the floor as it is. So let's get this drilled, welded in, and we can crack on to the next job. Okay, so all that's welded up now. There was even, if you might have noticed it earlier, if you had an eagle eye, there was a little bit of a dent here where the tube has actually just gone into this. So I actually hammered it down and got it flat, and then I've actually drilled it and plugged it through. Another reason why I thought I'd do that is to stop any rattling if there is anything. I don't think there would be anyway. That's nice and strong, both sides basically now. So the time to do now is get covered in grime, crap, and do a lot of grinding. So we're going to get that all cleaned up first, and then we'll move on to the exhaust tunnel. And the exhaust tunnel is going to be just as funky, because I like to be just as awkward, because I want to put a bead roll in the top of that as well. So yeah, so let's get this ground up. It's obviously touching the gearbox at the moment, but we ended, well, not decided how I'm going to do this panel yet. Obviously we've got to do the exhaust tunnel first, so we can do that infill panel anytime. So the plan is to get this exhaust tunnel done, and it's going to be like an oval kind of shape like this. So it will come up, have a nice bead roll on the pattern, and then it's going to come into this shape here. But obviously I've got to trim this as carefully as I can and put the curves in it and work out where it's going to come to. So it's going to take a bit of working out. So we'll get into that, and then we can start bending up some sheet steel and folding it in. So let's plan out our cut line and go from there. Right, so we've got all that cleaned up, and basically we've got, you might be able to see it, 5 inches I've gone. So 5 inches, 5 inches, pretty much, right, okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put a tube on the bench. We're actually going to bend this tunnel up, plop it in, plop it, what a word, throw it in, and like it will probably meet up with a tube here, so it won't go directly flush with the tube, even though it probably should do. But we're going to go to just onto the front of the tube here, and we're going to literally slot it in underneath. I'm going to clean a bit of the underneath off, and then we can work out the pattern, which is obviously going to be something like that in the bead roll, and it'd be nice. I don't think we're going to be able to match it up with here because of where it is, and the chassis rail here. The chassis rail is just here. Well, it finishes and then starts again here. So, so the plan is to bend that up. Like I say, we'll plop it in. I'm sticking with it now.
Get some help.
We'll plop it in, and yeah, we'll get a marking on it. Might even tack it in. Get a marking on it. It might be a bit more trimming, but at least we're in the right shape in the ballpark now. So you probably noticed I cut at that angle to get that, because this bit at the top is going to be dead flat. Okay, so let's get a ball rolling on that. We'll do some on a bit of an off cut, which is just over the right length, which is perfect. I've measured the centre, so it's 250 mil, so it's 125 mil halfway. And then we are going to slot it underneath this, and we want it to be, let me get a ruler with, we want it to be, so it's 2.5 inches, so we want it to kind of be, 2.5 inches to the bend. So there's 2.5 inches. I'm going to square it up a bit, and then literally put a bit of pressure on it, and then All right, so we've got another piece of tube which is longer lip, and we're literally going to put pressure on that so it bends all at the same time. Get a bit of hip into it. So we've got a bit of shape. Right, okay. So we've got that shape there. Now in theory, that should be 2.5. Okay. Now we can do the same the other side. And we're going to measure from that centre line again to 2.5. Centre line. Might want to go a little bit less. Just to give ourselves a bit of hope. Right, so that's 2.5, same again. We've got to come up first, remember. So up, and then give it some, definitely give it some shit. Probably, if I left a bit more length on it, would have been easier. But we're committed now. We don't like wasting material, do we? Annoyingly, we've got to flatten all this out again. Right, so we've got our BC channel. So I trimmed that out a bit more and got it to sit right up. But the problem we got is it's too shallow here. I want this panel to come back on itself underneath, and it's trying to sit flush here both sides. Actually the other side, the floor is lower than the actual panel. But there's a downside and a benefit for this. The downside is I've got to make another piece, but the benefit of this, if we can use this one as a good pattern. So we obviously need another 15-20 mil both sides, so that gives us that. And then we can also put the pattern in here and work out where the pattern's going to be to the centre line of this panel, and then put it into the next one before we fold it up. And then, because if you, I don't know whether it explained it, when I did this bead roll, it actually left a bit of a weird groove here. Now I deleted it and got rid of it, but in this one, we can not do that, because we can use this one as a template. So we're going to put the bead roll in here. I'm going to stop it probably here and go from there. Now, the other thing is, need to offer a seat in, which I never thought I was going to be getting to that stage yet, but it's getting to that stage, which is fine. So I need to kind of work out where I'm going to be sat, and then both seats are going to be sat in the same place. So I'll get some seat mounts sorted, I'll work out where it's going to be, and then we can stop our bead roll and start it again, because obviously there's going to be a rail here, okay, or it might go into this even, but it needs to stop the bead roll to it, start it, and then carry on. Right, so I progressed with another panel because my camera died, and that's basically ready to go in. We're going to trim off some edges and do a folded flipped edge on the bottom there, and then trim the back off. The back's actually too long, and it's obviously not symmetrical to that tube. But yeah, super happy with that. It's going to look like quite smart. It isn't going to line, the bead roll's not going to line up with that, but I'm being picky really. We've left a recess here for the seat rail, so I worked out where the seat rail is going to be. So we're going to be same both sides. So I think we're going to call it a day on this episode. It's probably quite a long video. I hope it's not, but I hope you've learnt a bit, and I hope you're interested in what I'm doing, and I hope you like the progress. Also, please make sure you like and subscribe. There's a lot of people that are watching that haven't subscribed, so please make sure you subscribe. It just helps me keep going, helps the enthusiasm. Make sure you comment as well. what you're liking and what you're not liking, and go from there. I have bought some microphones, but I'm trying to get my head around them at the moment. I don't think we actually need them, but I bought them anyway, just because when the racing starts, we'll probably need them and we can chat crap in the car. So you might be able to understand me a bit better. And yeah, so we're getting there now. Massive thank you to Sub-Zero for coming out and helping me with a few parts and cleaning a few parts, and even cleaning the bottom of the car when we get round to it, and maybe the gearbox. So big thanks to them to come on board. Please make sure you subscribe to their locals, their socials and their locals. They're locals to us, shall we say. It's very tired, a lot of hours going on, and we'll also keep you updated with Dad's car soon. So thanks very much. We'll see you in the next one.